I found Obsidian several months ago, and what I have found is that it's a very simple way to manage and maintain our knowledge docs, our notes, and all of that information that maybe we want to use in Claude, in ChatGPT, even in like Gemini, and um, in other places for that matter. And so here's kind of the origin story, and I'm going to do this quickly. And I want to also preface this by saying that I'm not going to go deep today into markdown files and markdown. I actually recently created a video on that is kind of like a markdown file 101 and how to use markdown. But suffice it to say, when I found Obsidian after being kind of like the Goldilocks of notes apps, and I love to nerd out on note-taking apps and stuff like that. And I think the reason I love to nerd out on them is because I've never found one that actually really felt right. And Obsidian is good. I'm not going to say that it's like the perfect notes app, but what I will tell you is that when I found Obsidian, I was kind of like, oh, this is the one that I never ever decided to try. And one of the reasons I never decided to try it is because it does this thing, this graph, okay? And what happens is that a lot of people have been talking a lot about this second brain concept. It became popular when 𝗥𝗘𝗦𝗢𝗦 made it popular several years ago. And then everybody started thinking like, okay, we need second brains for our AI. But honestly, if you think about what a second brain is, it's just another place to store a lot of information. And just because you have a second brain or a third brain or a fourth brain doesn't actually mean that you're going to use all that information. Like, I'm not even using all the information that's up here in my first brain. So I don't know that I necessarily need another second brain. That's not the purpose that I use Obsidian for. And it's not the purpose of creating a bunch of knowledge files and notes just for the sake of having a lot of stuff. So what you're going to see today is my Obsidian and how streamlined it is. I don't want to spend my time so far in my notes and all that I'm getting lost in the shuffle, because for me, honestly, that is not a money producing activity. It's not an income producing activity, an IPA, I call them, right? We all know now that we have Claude, right? And Obsidian is not unique to just Claude. And I'm gonna tell you why in just a minute, because you're gonna like, I hope that it's gonna blow your mind. But everybody started talking about Obsidian and Claude a couple of months ago because this guy named Karpathy, who started OpenAI years ago, and now he's actually, from what I heard, he's actually with Claude. He had made a post on Twitter that went viral, and he said that basically, here's my Obsidian Claude setup. And so everybody went bananas. Now, I want to show you really quick in Claude, and this is my Claude. I'm not really, gatekeeping anything here today. You can add connectors. And so I've got connectors connected. And one of the connectors that you don't see here is Obsidian, which is like the crux of this whole thing and why I think Obsidian is so killer, because it's not connected. So let me head back over here because I want to preface something else here really quick as we talk through this today. And that is Obsidian and Claude have a one source of truth. And the source of truth files are not sitting on some cloud in Obsidian, and they're not sitting on some cloud in Google or whatever else note-taking app that uses some sort of cloud-based source, right? Because the reason you're connecting to Claude is because Claude is over here and your cloud-based app is over here. And so they made the connectors, all those MCPs. But in this setup, the folder that's on your local computer is the one source of truth. And that's what makes this whole thing so interesting. And that's why I think that Obsidian is so interesting. So today, I don't want to like tell you all the reasons why I think that this setup is necessarily interesting. I want to actually show you my Obsidian because I spent time in a rabbit hole on YouTube going through tons of Obsidian videos, watching all of the Obsidian experts. And I am not an Obsidian expert. I'm just like a basic user that's going to show you all how to use it basically so you can run your business and live your life and not be like in the Obsidian rabbit hole. But suffice it to say that when we talk about Obsidian and we talk about Claude, there's a third place, and that is the local files on your computer. And this kind of all came full circle for us because, we all like store our stuff on Google, or we store our stuff, in Evernote or ClickUp or Notion, right? And all those places are separate from our local computer, from this computer I'm sitting at today. Now, it's very old school thinking, kind of, to be like, wait a minute, what? You want me to save my stuff locally? Like, that is crazy talk, right? But in this particular scenario, it works. And it works for the main reason that when Claude launched Cowork, and Cowork is local on your Claude, right? So you go to Cowork. Anytime you decide you want to flip over and start using Cowork, you're local, you're on this local computer, and it wants local folder. So it says here, work in a project or folder. If I click on this, it wants a folder that's right here, user, WB Mac, Dropbox, right? It wants the folder that's located on this computer. It doesn't want a folder or a document that's located on Google or on Notion, right? You have to use the connector for that. That adds a layer of complexity, but it also adds a layer of just like slight slowness because you have to start connecting everything. So what makes this so interesting is that Cowork and Obsidian almost kind of brought us back a little bit to like old school, right? Where we're starting to store things locally. So where does Obsidian come into this? Well, Obsidian, which is, by the way, you can make an Obsidian account at obsidian.md, and it's free. There's no cost. You're going to download it, you're going to create an account, and it's 100% free. Okay, there's no like strings attached to this. It's crazy. And Obsidian is not actually hosting your files. And that's what makes this so darn amazing. Now, there's one thing that I do want to tell you, and that is, as we talk about my local files and I show you how my local files are connected to Claude and connected to Obsidian, I want you to note one thing, and that is I use Dropbox. Dropbox allows me to basically have the files local, and then they sync automatically back to the cloud. Years ago, I decided that fundamentally I didn't want my files living on my local computer because, if your local computer crashes, you are SOL, right? And so I like this concept of having them visually local and usably local and fast like they're local, but then in the background, they're constantly syncing to the cloud. And the other reason I use Dropbox is, and this has served me well now that we're all in this AI age, is that whether I'm on this desktop computer or whether I'm on my laptop, I see the same files and I'm accessing the same files and they're all syncing in real time. So it's cloud-based, but it behaves locally. And that gives me a distinct advantage when I'm using Claude Cowork, when I'm pulling things from Claude, when I want to see them and edit them in Obsidian, and when I'm even in things like, ChatGPT, which I still use all the darn time. And so this whole kind of way that we're thinking now, again, is this like, it's almost like local first, which is so weird. And again, Claude has given us and ChatGPT has given us a lot of abilities to connect out through this MCP, this Model Context Protocol, which is basically like an API that connects whatever to Claude or whatever to ChatGPT. So I want to talk through folder structure. And for that, I want to show you my Obsidian. And here's what it looks like. Okay, and in a few minutes, we're going to walk through the theme that I'm using. If you like this theme, I'm going to show you how to make your theme look like my theme and your colors. But here's what's interesting about this. If I open up this folder, you can see that I have a subfolder called Buyer Personas, called Director of Marketing, called Leads, and then I have files, okay? And these files are not in Obsidian. These files are actually over here. I'm going to pull this over on my local computer. And that's what makes this so badass, frankly, is because I don't have to manage another set of documents. So on Google, I'm managing a set of documents. If I download that document and then I want to make updates to that document, then I have to upload it back to Google, or I have to download it again from Google, et cetera, et cetera. In this scenario, you can see here that I'm in Claude plus Obsidian, which is also down here in this bottom left corner, the same vault that I'm in Obsidian. So it's all connected. And so when you think of Obsidian, you don't think of Obsidian as connecting to Claude. Everything connects to this folder. So again, one source of truth. So that's great and everything, but the big question is, how do we use Obsidian? At the core, I want to show you how to use it and set it up and just use it like I use it, where when I have a document that I know I'm going to be editing a lot, and maybe it originated on Google or it originated over in Claude, I make sure that it's a .md so Obsidian can read it, because Obsidian reads .md files, and your Claude, your ChatGPT, your large language models love .md files. And when you start to, go hard and like just go bonsai with Claude and with some of these other language models, and as you may start to explore more with co-work, as you start to explore more, if your path is going down code, or you think that that might be interesting someday, .md files are the way to go because they're super lightweight. And so I've always been teaching my clients that they need to be using these .md files so you don't bulk up your projects, your knowledge docs, if you're using custom GPTs or building AI assistants, et cetera, et cetera. So let me show you how to set up really quick, because that's really what this is all about today. Set up your Obsidian. Like I said, go to obsidian.md and create your free account. That's step one. That you're going to do that right here. Once you have it set up, you are going to get a window that looks like this that's going to come up before you've connected anything. You can create a new vault, but that's going to be blank. So what I recommend you do is create your folder structure. And if you've been using Claude for any period of time or co-work, you probably already have a folder or a folder system locally that you may be using. And so what I'm going to suggest to you is that you create a main folder. So you can see mine is called Claude plus Obsidian. This is my root folder, or the main folder that I have connected right here. And then you set up your folders inside of that main root directory, that main Obsidian directory or folder. And that's what you are going to connect when we go and we connect it. So let me go back here. You're going to do open folder as vault, and you're going to click open. Now, I'll tell you, if I wanted to create another vault with WB Business Offers, I could click on this and that would start a new vault for me. And then from there, it's going to automatically populate in this vault for you. Okay, or this workspace, whatever you want to call it. So you can see here that I have the workspace called Claude plus Obsidian connected, and that's what we are looking at. It is very easy. So again, open folder as vault. That's where you want to begin. And I recommend that you create your folder structure first, or at least create the root. And then if you have other folders that are, haphazardly put wherever you put them, drag them into your Claude plus Obsidian folder, or your main Obsidian folder. And you don't have to call it Obsidian. I just did that so I would remember that that's the one that I've connected to Obsidian. You can do something similar to what I did, where you have like a master Claude folder. And then in that, you can create a Claude plus Obsidian. You could have a master Claude folder. And if you have different businesses or work on different clients, and you want to have different Obsidian vaults for different clients, then you could name them like Obsidian plus Joe Smith, Obsidian plus Sarah Jones, right? Something like that. So, and then you could create your Obsidian vaults and just keep adding Obsidian vaults, right? If I had more Obsidian vaults down here in this bottom left-hand corner, I'd see other names of the vault, and then I could flip around. Because again, this is just like a mirrored reflection of what's in those files. If I don't have it in a .md, Obsidian isn't even going to read it. I can put images and whatnot in here if I add certain plugins and stuff, but that's not my goal for Obsidian. Like, I want to see what's in my markdown files. And here's the reason. Let me show you really quick. I'm going to go back into this and I'm going to open this. So this is not easy for me to read. I mean, I can read it, but nothing's, it's got a bunch of stuff in it. And this is the same document. But now this is pretty. This is how we are used to seeing things. You can start a document right in here. Let me just do it. I'll click in here and I'll say new note and I'll say playing around. This is in the Obsidian training. Okay, now watch what's happened. If I go back over to my folders and I go into here, I now have playing around. This is in my Obsidian training. So when I'm doing deep work in Claude, and I'm bringing content from Claude and I used to bring it all into Google Drive. And then if I would edit it in Google Drive, then I had to re-download it as a .md and then I had to move it back into Claude or whatever, right? Now I'm doing the work right here in Obsidian because it gives me the flexibility to have it already connected. And this becomes really important when your Claude cowork and when other folders are reading directly from that local folder on your computer. Okay. So when you're in Claude cowork, for instance, it's always going to look for a claude.md file. And this is my claude.md file. It's always going to look for that first. And it knows, look in this folder. If I wanted to make an update to this folder, I'm not going over to Google Drive and making an update and then downloading it as an MD and then moving it over to here. And then, oh, I see something that's wrong and I have to go back. I literally make my edits in here because this is like human readable because I've added in some very basic markdown. So that's what Obsidian is doing for us. It's actually giving us that direct connection to the files that we need to edit that are going to make our Claude or ChatGPT run the best. I want to get into setting up Obsidian because what happens is once you start to go down the Obsidian rabbit hole, things can get a little sketch for you. And so I want to make sure that I go over, which is the purpose of this, my setup for Obsidian. So once you have it downloaded and you've connected it and you start to think about like, what is my folder structure going to be? Now, just as an aside, I use the folder structure that I teach in my Solo Expert OS system with the directors. Okay. So I think of everything in terms of directors, marketing, sales, curriculum, blah, blah, blah. Right. So my directors are running the show in Claude. I have them built also in ChatGPT. And I have them set up the same way here so that I'm not thinking like I have one naming convention over here. I've got another naming convention for files over here. Like this, my first brain is already like got enough going on. I'm not going to make it more complicated by not having a consistent naming convention. And so I always like recommend that is a key element of your system, whatever your system is, whether you use Obsidian or not, is that consistency through makes things so much easier and it saves you so much time. Okay, let's dive into Obsidian. There are a few different ways to get to the Obsidian settings. You can click down here on this little cog and it brings it up, or you can click up here and go to settings and it brings it up. There's a lot of different stuff going on in here that I don't want to go over, but I recommend that at some point, a lot of this is already turned on automatically. Where we want to focus today is the core plugins, the community plugins, and the appearance. And you can see here that you can see the core plugins that I have turned on and the community plugins that I have turned on. Now, there are thousands and thousands of community plugins. Everybody that loves Obsidian has made a gazillion plugins for Obsidian. And so as we start to learn more about Obsidian, this is how we find out that it can become like this super deep rabbit hole that you may never come out of. First of all, I want to make sure that you read through some of these, right? And then the first thing we want to do is go to core plugins. And I don't have the recording audio turned on because I don't use Obsidian that way. I'm using Obsidian to see documentation that I need for Claude, right? To track documents. I'm not using it as my full PKM, personal knowledge management. I'm not wanting to create one of those interconnected web things and show everybody how cool mine is. It's not cool. None of them are connected because I don't ever use backlinks. It doesn't even occur to me ever to use a backlink because that's not how my brain operates. But a lot of these are going to be on, and you'll want to have some of these on, and then you get to decide which ones you may not want on. You won't use all of them. There are a few that are important to make sure are turned on, like search, right? The slash commands. But what I'm wanting to show you is the community plugins that are important for you to use. A couple things about plugins. I'm going to click up here really quick to browse plugins. This is how you browse the plugins. You can see that it's showing me 5,300 plugins. And some of these have millions of downloads and some of them don't, right? Some of them aren't very popular. Some of them were updated 17 days ago. Some of them haven't been updated for 4 years, but it hasn't been necessary for the developer to update it. So when you're downloading and installing plugins, keep in mind that some are better than others. And so I spent some time and I figured out which ones that I felt like would be the best for me. So I'm going to just show you my installed plugins. And the other thing I did is I created for you this list of plugins that I'm going to give you. And the first plugin that you'll want to do is called Style Settings. And Style Settings is this plugin right here. And it gives your Obsidian themes, and whatever theme you're using, it gives it the ability, you don't need to worry about any of this stuff. I'm going to show you how it works in a minute. But the Style Settings gives you the ability to do this right over here and make it your colors for whatever theme you're using to colorize it. Okay. So that was the first one that I put in because it's the first one that all the people that I watched told me to put in. One of the guys is named Nick, and he's called Linking Your Thinking and he's like an Obsidian expert. He's like the one. So Nick Milo from Linking Your Thinking is like, if you want to go deep with Obsidian, go watch his stuff. And then there are a few others that I felt were necessary. So Style Plugin, Quiet Outline. And the reason I wanted this quiet outline is because of this thing right over here. So I'm used to seeing that in Google. And when I have to switch to something different, I want to kind of emulate or create the same experience for myself. And so this quiet outline allows me to create this little sidebar outline here. And it's doing it the same way that Google does it, actually, by using the H1s, H2s, and H3s. Okay, which are the markdowns, which are the basics of the basics. Now, this is a must-have for me. It may not be a must-have for you, but I like it a lot, and I like to be able to see a quick reference. This comes even in more handy when I'm doing something like, let me see if I did one here. Yeah, so this one is much more elaborate, right? It's got all sorts of things. Like if I had to scroll this whole document, it would take me a long time. So this is why I like this, because I can at least see some structure and jump around to what I want to see right away. So that one is called Quiet Outline. Recent Files is next. Recent Files adds this tiny little clock up here to the top left corner. And when I click it, it shows me what I've been in lately. So I like that. I feel like that's a must-have for me. It may not be a must-have for you. You may have some other must-haves, but these are the ones that I like. OmniSearch is one that, all the Obsidian gurus. OmniSearch and Settings Search are two that everybody I watched told me that I needed to do. So I did it, and I'm passing that information on to you. OmniSearch basically makes the search much more robust. Settings search puts this search bar here so you can search for what you need, because this is hard to come by. And if I typed in word count, it's going to bring me to the two places where I see word count. Okay, so settings search actually gives you the ability to search all of the settings, which is kind of cool. So those are the 5 that I have said that I think are kind of the must-haves if you feel like you want that extra functionality. Then I have 3 more that are nice to haves. One is this highlighter, which I kind of like. I don't use it a lot, but look at how it works. If I highlight this and then I right click and then I click highlight, it allows me to highlight text. Okay, so that's kind of nice. And the other one is better word count. So I don't know if I have it turned on right now. When it's turned on, I think I might have just unturned it on. When I highlight, it'll tell me how many words and letters and text I have highlighted. So that can be important, especially if you're doing things in like custom GPTs where you only have like an 8,000 character window and stuff like that, right? Okay, and then calendar. Now, Obsidian has this little feature called daily notes. I don't use it, but if you are the type of person that wants to kind of write notes or run a diary every day, daily notes is baked into Obsidian. And it's kind of cool, but I use my chief of staff inside of my Solo Expert OS to keep track of all of my daily notes. But here's what happens. Anytime you create a daily note, let's say I do today's. Anytime there's a daily note that's added, that little calendar feature, that little calendar plugin shows up here in this upper right-hand corner. And it shows me with a dot where I have daily notes. So you can see right now it's highlighted. It's very light, but it's highlighted for my note. But it's showing where I have created daily notes so I can jump back to them. This is important if you are a heavy duty notes taker. And it's one of the things that I tell myself that I want to use, although I'm just not using it yet. So those are the plugins that I've used. Again, of the thousands, I'm using 8. Sometimes people think you need 40. You know, anytime you add more of something, it's going to make everything else slower. So just keep that in mind. And that brings me to themes. And themes is super fun. And I spent days testing different themes. And one of the reasons is because, you know, themes are subjective. Everybody likes something different. So to get to themes, you're going to go back to settings. So you're either going to click the cog or you're going to go up to here and click on settings. And in here, you're going to click on appearance. And you can see it's a little bit hidden. It's not like super clear. This is where you find and manage your themes right here. Manage installed themes and browse community themes. Now it comes with the standard Obsidian theme. I'm going to click here on manage and I'm going to show my installed themes. And you can see there's a basic one by Obsidian. And then this theme is a very popular theme that I cannot stand. I do not like this background color at all. Like I like stark and crisp, and this makes it very warm and gentle, and that's not how I operate. But I put it on the list for you all because it's very popular. I liked Blue Topaz. It's nice and clean, but I ended up with this one called PLN. And when you load PLN, it's going to show you these kind of like muted colors right here. And there's also a dark version of it. And you might notice that my colors over here are a little bit brighter. And they're brighter because I'm using that style setting plugin. And so you can see here, it's showing me my theme that's active. So let me just go back over here really quick. And if I wanted to, of my active themes, my installed themes, I can flip around, okay, to these different ones. But I'm on PLN, and that's the active one. And then when I click over here on that must-have plugin that I installed, Style Settings, I now have the ability to edit the colors inside of this. Now, it automatically says here red, orange, yellow, dark yellow. I'm ignoring those because I wanted them in my color. So you can see, even though it says red, this color right here is actually this bright turquoise over here. And my orange is orange, and my yellow is this color right here, et cetera, et cetera. So that is why that style setting plugin is so important, because it gives you that little bit of flexibility that you can, make it your own. If I go back here, it's telling me how many I have installed. I can check for updates. I can do all sorts of things. The other thing I can do here is set my fonts. Okay, so you can see here that the interface font, I have it set, the text font. So the different fonts that it may render, you can set the fonts appropriately. And then you can pick the sizes and all that good stuff. So you can really make it your own. But the core that I want to emphasize to you today is that instead of doing income producing work, I could still be in the Obsidian rabbit hole making this perfect and thinking about this and stylizing it and adding plugins that I'm never going to use. So I want to encourage you to keep it really narrow and really focused and use it. Start using it for Claude. If you decide like you've been with Evernote for years or something like that and it's really time for a change, then go ahead and start to think about, could Obsidian be the one? It may and it may not be the one. But I will tell you that regardless of whether it's the one that you want to go hard on or not, I think it is a great way to edit your markdown files and see them in a way that makes sense for your eyeballs in the most Google-esque way possible. So again, number one, download Obsidian. Number two, think about and create your file structure on your local computer, and hopefully it matches the file structure in your ChatGPT or Claude. And so you've got that consistency through. Again, mine is all built based on my directors. So marketing, sales, client success, curriculum, ops, skills, but that's the consistency. You don't have to follow my system. I hope that you decide to follow my system, but you don't have to follow my system. You can name them whatever you want. But if you already have like a really good naming convention over here in your Claude, think about at least using that for your local files that Obsidian's going to read, because down the road, let me tell you what's going to happen. If I'm over here in chat also, and I know that I've updated my claude.md file. You can see it right here in the files. I know exactly where it is. I'm not thinking, oh, I forgot to download it, or where is it in my downloads folder? I know I downloaded it 5 days ago in Google Drive, and then it's just sitting like idly in the downloads. I know exactly that when I click this and I go upload from device, that I'm going into my Claude plus Obsidian and I am pulling that document right there, because this is my single source of truth. This is the place. Okay. So that's how I recommend. So download Obsidian, set up your folders, make sure your core plugins are turned on that you want turned on. Add the community plugins, at least add the style settings plugin, and then add the appearance and make it look like yours. And then don't worry about it after that. Unless, again, you want to go deeper. If you get the bug, that's totally up to you. A couple of housekeeping things. I have now officially renamed the operating system that I created that has the directors, that teaches you how to build your assistants and all that. That now is officially called the Solo Expert OS. I'm going to be starting to talk about it a lot in email, so get ready. The next training is on July 14th at 12 noon, and it's going to be focused on the 3 things your Claude absolutely 100% needs. So that's what's going to be next. If you have not gotten or done the AI Profit Playbook yet, you should, because that is a great place to start. If you are here and you're thinking like, where should I begin? If you're not in my Skool community, you can always join that. If you are in my Skool community and you haven't gotten your free access to the AI Profit Playbook, you want to do that. And again, I'm going to send out an email with the recording of this, and I'll send out all the information, because the Solo Expert OS is amazing. And the first step of that is doing the AI Profit Playbook because it's going to give you the diagnostic that tells you where you're leaking money and where you could be saving money and time. And so that way, when you dive into the Solo Expert OS, you know exactly what to do and you know exactly where to start. And so that's kind of like the gateway drug into the Solo Expert OS. Okay, does anybody else have any questions? Drop them in the Q&A if you do. I hope this was helpful. I encourage you to try Obsidian, but I also encourage you to do as I say and not as I do, and put the plugins in that I recommended. Again, you can go ham if you want to, but hopefully this will give you some structure if you need it, and still give you enough to like play around and make it exciting and feel good for you. Okay. With that, my friends, I'm going to say thank you very much for joining me. I hope you have a great day. If you have not joined my Skool community, my free community is called the Solo Expert Advantage. You can head over to Skool and take a look at it and join. It's free. I announce all these things. You're on my email list. I announce them, yada, yada, yada. It's everywhere. It's all at once. I will look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care.